Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by DraftKings. NBA playoffs are here, so you got play-in games. Throw down $5 on any of these games. If your team wins, you get $100 in free plays. All right, now everybody's talking about this big-time recruiting class that U of A football has in. We just watched in the spring game, and now we're going to talk with a member, one of the highest-rated members, who is just about now or is going to be arriving in Tucson very shortly, Mr. Sterling Deuce Lane. Hello, Sterling. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, a lot of people have asked me, what do you prefer? Because the fans are going to be calling you Sterling or Deuce. Which one you go by?
Deuce.
Deuce? All right. There it is. Right there. Deuce Lane right there. All right. Now, you're going to be arriving on campus here pretty shortly. Am I wrong?
Yes, sir. June 3rd. I should be there.
All right. Very cool. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the spring game, then a little bit about yourself, obviously. Spring game was yesterday. And I'll just tell you this, man. From an observer watching, this is a different era of Arizona football right here. And that there's an excitement, there's a camaraderie that, quite frankly, we hadn't seen in a long time before Jedd Fisch got here. I mean, do you kind of feel that even though you're not on campus yet?
Yeah. So I went down to watch the practices in last weekend, right before the spring game, and watching the team, but the whole team practice, it was just much love. They was competing, they was getting after it, and afterwards, they was helping, coaching each other up. You know, you could see it's one team. They really connected, really tight. So it's just good to see that. It's good to see that coming into that, so you know how to help that and build that more. You know,
right?
So
very. Okay, so. When and again, a little bit of uncharted waters here because you're another guy. There's a lot of guys on this team from all over California who could have gone to basically any school, in the country. A lot of different options. You're a big time recruit, 4-star pass rusher. Remind fans just a little bit again about why you wanted to become a Wildcat when let's quite frankly, you had some other really nice offers as well.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, like you said, the team camaraderie. I loved all that, seeing that. I feel like coming from the team I was on, we had that as well. And if I could carry that over to college, I feel like that was going to be the best thing. Plus, Jedd Fisch's plan, what he was going to do with the team, I loved it. And when I first heard it, I knew that's where I wanted to play, coach. And seeing Coach Ricky Hunley, talking with him, Coach Nass, Coach Kafusi, talking to all of them, I just love them as a coaching staff, and I just want to be a player for them.
The thing that really kind of stands out about you on tape, besides your size, is that you can get after the passer, but you're also pretty nimble in space. You're a pretty versatile guy. How do they see you playing once you arrive on campus?
Yeah, so man, they want to play what they call a cat position. So I pass rush a lot, and I drop back into coverage to the flats and hooks and curls. So they want to be able to use my pass rushing skills and my athleticism to also cover people. So I'm hoping to build on that as I get down there.
Now, I was looking on Twitter, you just got a personal record on one of your lifts, did you not?
Yeah, I did. It was a max before, but I did it for 3. And yeah.
Right, for sure. Now, have you, again, what's very unique about you is obviously your size. Have you always been one of the bigger kids? Did you grow late? How did that happen?
I was very small. I played basketball, so I was I wasn't very small, but I was very toned as my freshman and sophomore year. I didn't really get bigger and muscle wise till like the end of my sophomore year, going into my junior year. But as a kid, I wasn't always skinny. That's what it was.
Was football always your main love? Was basketball? What was your first love?
First love was football.
Right.
So football. I love playing football. Now I got into basketball. I ain't like basketball really too much because I wasn't really good at it. But when I got good at it, it started to become fun again. But football was always my first love.
Okay, so when did you start really? You mentioned that you started filling out between your sophomore and junior year. So your recruiting starts picking up. Take us through kind of your high school. When you get into high school, when you start really taking off, when you start getting recruited. Take us through kind of that 4-year process for Deuce Lane.
I feel for my first 2 years, it was really just my plan. And my sophomore year, I saw some colleges see interest in me. They would send me letters, tell me that they were interested in me. They come to the school. I think Arizona State came to watch somebody on our team, and they ended up seeing me too, and they just kept the eye out for me as well. My sophomore year, and I transferred to Osh Christian,
right?
And then me and Coach Charlie Collins, and then having him coach me. And then after that, the offers just came after that.
Now, so you get to Oaks Christian, and obviously that's one of the best high schools as far as producing talent in the entire country. Was that a little bit of an eye opener from where you had been previously?
Yeah, because mainly I've never been in a weight room where college coaches were in there and like they were
Right.
like they walked it through. I never really seen that before, so that was kind of an eye opener. Plus, seeing the team list was different. They was really there was animals in there. You know, either you had to be one of the dogs or you gonna get eaten. Like you gotta really adapt to it, and I didn't really have that much trouble adapting to it.
Okay, so Jedd Fisch takes over at the U of A then, and one of his first things, and I'll never forget it, was he said, listen, he said, recruiting is going to be the lifeblood of our program. He said, because you know what, we can have the best coaches out there, but if we can't bring in the players, then you know what, we're going to be limited in how far we can go. And he immediately said, we're going to prioritize in-state and California. And lo and behold, I mean, you look up and down, you know, quite a few 4-stars coming out of California. Now, take us through when Jedd Fisch first got in touch with you, the coaching staff, and how that relationship has just kind of grown.
I remember it was one night he called me and he was like, "Yeah, this is Jedd Fisch." And I remember talking to him and he was like, "I really like you as a player." And I could feel like because you know, talking to coaches, you want to like they tell you what you want to hear and stuff like that, you know. But with him, it was very genuine. Like he like really cares about you as a player, and he really cares. He wants to see you succeed. And after hearing that, I really after that just it was a done deal after that, you know.
Right.
I just kept in contact with him, and then that's it.
The one thing that all of the recruits that we've had on have said about Coach Fisch and his staff is they said, and it wasn't like sometimes when you hear about a player commit or whatever, and then the coaching staff basically just says, okay, well, we've got them. We're moving on to somebody else. Every single recruit to a man has said they recruited us and they kept in touch with us even more after we committed, not less.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's very true. I remember I called Coach Ricky maybe like once every other week before I committed, and then after I committed, I called him like 2 times a week, going on to 3. And then I just see this. They kept calling me. I kept calling them. And they just love after you commit. If you go to the school, it's just love.
You mentioned being down here at the U of A. So what are your thoughts? I mean, you've been on campus obviously a few times. What are your thoughts of the campus? What are your thoughts on the environment and everything?
It's hot. Like, yeah, it's hot. Yeah. Nah. But I looking at the campus, because when I took my visit, you know, it was during COVID, so I really didn't get to see a lot of people down there.
Right.
But seeing everybody walking through campus is beautiful. Seeing the weight room, seeing the team practice is beautiful. It was just a good time to be down there.
Do you have any idea what you want to? Do you have any idea who you're going to be rooming with?
They told me, but I forgot the names. So okay. Deuce Davis.
Okay. One of another them. Deuce.
Yeah. Ty is another one.
Right.
After that, I don't really know.
Okay. No, you're good. Now, take us through. I always want to ask a little bit about just kind of the parents' influence. So, what did your parents say when you decided that you were looking at becoming a Wildcat? You know, what did they have to say?
My mom loved it. After the first visit, she was like, "I don't need to see any other school after this. I don't need to see no other school. We're not to go to any other school, take a visit. We good. We can get something right here." My dad also same way. He loved it. He was like, every visit we took after that was mainly to set the bar for them, and Arizona was the bar. And I don't think any other school said it, because we got to the school, they're like, "Oh yeah, Arizona got that. Nah, we're good. That's how it was with them.
Did you grow up? Did you have a favorite school growing up?
Yeah, I liked Ohio State.
Right.
Watching them. Ezekiel was there. I like watching them.
All right. Now, we had a couple people asking. The one thing about that's very hard to find, you're in a very unique position right there, because a lot of times, and this isn't to minimize the other positions, but you can find some good running backs. You can find some good wide receivers. It's hard to find good pass rushers. Now, when you were coming up, was that the position that you always wanted to play? Did a coach say, "Hey, man, you've got a real ability"? How did you become the pass rusher you became?
That's crazy. So the coach is my dad. So he tried me at middle linebacker first, but like I couldn't really read fast enough at middle linebacker as a kid. So he put me at defensive end, and after that, the rest was history. After that,
right?
It was easy for me to play. I understood it the best.
Right. So what are your now heading into college, obviously you can anybody that, and we had a bunch of people comment on this before about how humble you are, because a lot of people that have your accolades, they're, that's just the way they are. But what are your do you have any individual goals? Are they all team oriented as far as what are your goals getting to the U of A as far as on the football field?
Mainly be the best player that you can be. That's one. I would work harder than yourself than you did the day before, and just learn and take up everything that you can. That's
right.
Just my goal is going into the summer. Just learn as much as you can, take as much in, listen. I don't gotta talk much. Just listen and learn. That's it.
All right. What kind of stuff you do in your spare time? What kind of music you listen to? Who you got right now? Who you listening to? All that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. So right now I'm listening to a lot of J. Cole and Dreamville right now. J.I.D. Kendrick, a lot of that right now.
Right.
I mainly play 2K and Madden in my spare time, and then just hang out with my friends afterwards when I ain't nothing else to do.
All right, my man. Before we let you sign off, what do you want to major in at the U of A? If football doesn't work out, what are your goals? Where does Deuce Lane see himself in 10, 15 years?
Business and economics.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, man. You're coming to the right school for business. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Again, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Super. It's always a privilege interviewing you. Just seeing how humble you are, and again, Deuce Lane for everybody out there that has been put out there. Again, dude, I can't thank you enough for your time, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon again. That's Deuce Lane, 4-star linebacker from Oaks Christian. All right. The best thing about having kids like this on there is that you can really talk with them and you can see really where they fit in here. And Deuce is no different, to be quite frank. And let's get to a little bit of where he fits in here in just a second. But first, let's talk about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. NBA playoffs are here, so you put $5 down on any of these playing games coming in here, and if that team wins, you get $100 in free plays. That simple, that easy. I would bet on the Nets because, quite frankly, they're the team that I would go for. By the way, it's always fun to be able to get family members in here. Really appreciate you. And yes, thank you. The first question was going to be if what Deuce wants to go by. So we got that clarified right there. All right, now let's talk a little bit about where Deuce fits in here. Everybody's talking about the Arizona football recruiting class, and with good reason. You've got a whole new wide receiver core. You've got running backs in the backfield. The one thing, though, and we talked about it with Deuce, the one thing that's difficult to find in this day and age is pass rusher. And because, quite frankly, there just aren't a lot of them that are 6'4", 240 pounds coming out of high school. It's a lot easier to find the 5'10" wide receiver. Not that the 5'10" wide receiver can't be awesome and just as important. But this was really when I knew that Coach Fisch was really expanding out, because if you look at Deuce's highlights, this is a kid that can get after the passer, and like we talked about, he can play in space. There's a lot of versatility to his game, and you look at his frame and the way that he's been able to add strength, and it's not hard to see him becoming 6'4", 270 pounds. I mean, you've got as good a weightlifting staff as in the entire country. You look at some of these guys in there, and I think he's going to fit right in there as far as that weightlifting program that they've got. And also, let's be honest here. When you come from a big-time high school like he did, where you've got college coaches that are going throughout the high school weightlifting room, that's a different animal. You've got to really step your game up there because, like you talked about, you want to impress these coaches. And on top of that, other players, you better believe, are going to be working incredibly hard as well. So if you don't work hard, it's going to show out even more than if you're just at a school, like I went to or something where nobody can really show you up. So being at a school like that always counts for a lot for me. But just as importantly, I'm always interested in by the kind of schools that will offer or recruit a kid. And when you look at him, he cut his commitment or his recruitment a little bit early. But when you've got schools, like the Michigans of the world, I mean, Deuce is a guy that if he had played his recruitment out, could have gone to probably pretty much anywhere he wanted. And that's what's different about this Jedd Fisch era of Arizona football. It just is. in the past, and again, this isn't meant to minimize anybody, but you would get some recruits, and the overwhelming percentage of kids that you're trying to get you're competing with, Louisiana Tech or, occasionally another Power 5 school. Jedd Fisch is going against the big boys here for a lot of these kids. We've already talked about where Deuce was, but we've already talked about, obviously, a T-Mac. We're, going against a USC and an Oregon. And, just look at the other wide receiver position where you got a Kevin Green, USC decommit. All of these guys, or a good percentage of these, especially the California kids, especially the Southern California kids, had a lot of different options. And, again, we still got to see it on the field. But this is something that we really haven't seen here in Tucson in a long time. And again, kudos to Deuce and his family right there for having the trust in Jedd, because this does feel like a different era. You watch the spring game, and again, I get that the spring game is a little bit, it's hard to be able to ascertain a lot. But the roster, the players on the field just looked a little bit different. They just did, from the quarterback position to the receiver, even to the D line. And what's fascinating too is you didn't even see some of the best players in the class. We just talked with Deuce Lane. You've got Rayshawn Speedy Luke, who's going to be coming in here as well from California. You've got a lot. You've still got some players that haven't shown up yet that are going to have something to say this freshman year and going forward. So again, can't thank Deuce and his family enough for setting this one up with us. We'd love to be back in touch with him again here shortly. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. NBA playoffs are here after today. Bet $5 on the play-in game. Get $100 in free plays if that team wins. 21 and up, Arizona only. You got a gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. But again, the DraftKings Sportsbook app, that's where you can get all the best action. That's where you can get all the best promos, all the best deals. Okay. We're again, thanks a ton to Deuce for coming on. We'll have this podcast up here shortly. Hoping to have Coach Chip Hale on tomorrow, U of A head baseball coach. But again, go PHNX, get a membership, got all the sports covered throughout the state. And we're only getting started around here. And hit the subscribe button on the AZ Wildcats podcast. We will be back with you tomorrow. Again, Deuce Lane, really appreciate you. And Jacob Franklin, thanks for making me look cool. We'll talk with you tomorrow.